Everyone, Docfire, it's time for another, well, it's time for a gun review, or review. This is the new push Propel. I just picked this up, just got delivered yesterday, and it's going to be a little bit longer video. I'm going to not talk about the things I like and dislike about it, just want to do a shooting video with it. I've kind of looked at this gun, but I haven't really made any adjustments to it. It's all pretty much factory, except the regulator. I set it to shooting at 300, and right at the 300 to turn speed, because I like to be able to show it that, so it can actually do that. I'm using the new Empire shell for the halo for it, shooting Vulcan graffiti in it. The barrel that comes with it is a 6.85. It's a little too big for this Vulcan graffiti, and so I have a Scony PWR barrel on here right now, and I've got the new JT or Empire flow tank set at about 420 psi output, right about that. And let's see how it shoots. I think everything's on. Your light's on. It does have this little red switch on the bottom. You can see that where my thumb is. I would call it safety, because, or training mode, but it doesn't fire. So to fire, you have to push that forward, and now it's in fire mode. And it's slick. 305, 301, 307, 300, 302, 302. Pretty consistent. Okay. It's got a little bit of a kick to it. Just kind of show this. I'm going to try to rapid fire. Out of paint. Let's see where we are. It's a very loud marker. Safety, it's very loud when it's dry firing, but it's you guys can hear it when I was firing. It's not that loud, so it's a very loud marker. But let's go inside and let's get a little deeper dive into this. I do like how it shoots. I'm not really fond of this really thin, small trigger. I think there's a lot of upgrade options in this for aftermarket components. But we'll talk more about that on the inside. Hey, we're Docfire, and I'm back in. You guys saw me just a few minutes ago shooting the new push Propel, and yeah, let's go over things that let's just kind of talk about it. But here's the case. It's a pretty small case. I don't have a tape measure here. I thought I should have brought one in here, but I didn't. But let me get something that's here's my cell phone. There we go. Got to see it's a Samsung. This is, look how big it is. It's a pretty small case that comes in. And let's open it up. I got the gray and black. It is. But it's one of these, these pressed foam cases. It has manual in it. Has a barrel sleeve. It's unbranded, just a black barrel sleeve. It has their barrel, and I did put calipers on this, and it's right at 685, 686, 685, give or take. It's a 14-inch barrel, two-piece. The bore seems to be smooth and shiny. I didn't see any dull spots. It's concentric, so when this front is screwed into this, you can look down here, and I don't know if we can get it in the camera. There you go. You can see it's concentric. That camera tries to focus on it. It's pretty concentric there, so it lines up nice. I don't know what backs these are. It's kind of like I don't know. To me, it's a little bit that you get one barrel, but there's no other kit. They don't sell any other barrel parts for it, so it's kind of like, all right, I have a barrel that will shoot some paint. The Vulcan graffiti that I was shooting bores about 675. So it's a much smaller bore. So this is got a little bit of a taper on the inlet here. It is having an O-ring here. It's Autococker thread. It's quick thread, so it's in and out pretty quick. But anyway, finish is, I call it that Chinese finish, I guess. It's okay. You can feel the ports. It's not an expensive bearing. But then again, the gun's right at $600-ish. Okay, so got the manual. The manual's pretty good. It has the O-ring sizes and has all the components in here. It doesn't really talk, at least nowhere that I could find, does it say what output tank should you use. And I didn't really see it. I didn't really read through all these warnings. But usually I'll just look for numbers, and I don't really see any numbers. It does talk about, don't exceed 300 feet per second. As of some rules, not allowed. Must not be in the U.S. I don't know. All the typical warning stuff. What's included with it, although mine did not come with this bag, and I don't think any of them are coming with the bag. It talks about getting started. The on-off, the regulator the velocity adjustment, the essentially the safety, I guess you would call that, or the training. They call it the safety trigger trainer. Okay. Comes with some Allen keys. We're going to go through everything here. It talks about some of the maintenance stuff. If you're having leaking, there's 3 symptom areas. It tells you what O-rings to look at. That's actually kind of nice. More kind of just a general disassembly of it. All the O-ring sizes, the manifold, the frame, and the regulator here, and then the on-off. And then they would have some QR codes here. They don't have them under the tech support, tech videos, and warranty registration. There's nothing here, so it's kind of interesting. And then when you open it up, obviously you have the gun. You can see it. Let's slide this forward a little bit. Fits in here. It has a Ziploc baggie with some spares in it. I've already opened this up, but it has, I think, enough to do not a full rebuild, because it has a lot of 1x3s metric O-rings. There's a lot of those. But if you look at the O-rings, if it says AS, I think that's American Standard 014. And then if it doesn't have an AS designator, then it's a metric. So this is a 1x6.5, 1x22, 1.5x2. I would have to say, when I'm going through all the O-rings, if they were to come out with a version 2, is start normalizing some of these O-rings. If you can get rid of some of the metric, do. I think if you can get rid of some of them, get rid of the metric as many as you can, especially the oddball metric stuff. I went and ordered a whole bunch of O-rings from the O-ring store, and finding all the metrics, they didn't have them all. So in the standard Buna 70s and 90s that they require, I had to go to different materials that were more expensive, higher quality. It has a spare ball detent Lexan. This is, it's very similar to the Dye eye pipe, although this is not an eye pipe, obviously, but it's very similar. There's a spare one, which is nice. Kind of looking at this, you could probably have these 3D printed if down the road. If, let's say, these things don't take off and these become pretty hard to come by, you could probably 3D print these, and they work perfectly fine, I think. So it's, there are some options there that I think you could get away with longevity by 3D printing something, but then you have to have someone that knows how to 3D print. It does have, I think, Allen keys for every screw. It always makes me nervous when there's a whole bunch of Allen keys. That tells you how many different screw sizes they have, and I kind of wish there was some normalization on that. There is one Allen key. We'll talk about it here in a minute. If you haven't done so, go over to A&S Gear. Rory did a really good teardown. I'm not going to do a complete teardown on this. Rory did a really good teardown on it, and he had some issues with it on the teardown. So go take a look at that, and we'll talk about that one issue, but he does a good teardown on it. It does have this, let me zoom into this. Nope, let's go over here. This is a little resin printed knob. This is threaded, and it's like, I don't know if it's, I don't know what, there's probably some metric. This is probably to pull something out on the three-way timing. Not the three-way, the trigger assembly timing mechanism. I'm assuming that's what this is for. It's probably used to screw into something that then you can pull it out, would be my guess. So you probably don't want to lose that. Probably a nice tool. We'll throw that back here. Like that. And then we have the guns. Let's put some of this stuff off to the side. Let's pull this out and let's start talking about the gun. Let's see if we can screw on the barrel. The barrel does have an O-ring here, and I did do some checking to see if with the O-ring in place, when I screw the barrel, does it go all the way back and stop against the eye pipe or the baldy tint, the Lexan baldy tint cover, whatever you want to call it. It's not an eye pipe, it's just the baldy tint. And I don't think it does. I think the O-ring stops it from pushing against that, but if I pull the O-ring off, this will screw down and stop against that. That is the shelf where the barrel would stop. So I think you want to be careful with that. I think you could probably, if your barrel is a little longer than 1.2425 between this shelf and here, then you could potentially crush that, maybe crack it or break it or something like that. So, and then if it's too short, if you do pop paint here, you'll start seeing paint bleed on the outside. Like, you'll know that if it's not a seal where it presses up against that eye pipe thing. Let me grab it. Let's demonstrate this. And it is allergy season right now, so I do have a runny nose. So this sits in here. This is would be the stop, and if you could potentially, if you're screwing, you're just pushing everything back, and that could damage, just crack it or whatever. So just be careful with that. They have an O-ring here, so I would like to see. I would rather see where, maybe they actually had a barrel shelf that's stopped against. That would be nice. But it's those are these things on longevity that I'm not going to be able to test, especially after just getting this yesterday. I'm going to be able to test to see if it actually works. But the O-ring holds the barrel on snugly, stuff like that. But we can go through some of the stuff on it. Let's flip it over to the other side. It's kind of nice looking at the solder marker without any detents, and I know Dye's been doing that for a long time, and I think it looks clean. You don't have the screw holes or whatever, the little levers to take off those detents. It's clean looking. It's, I've always wondered why it took so long for people to do that. But for the cost, so this is right around $650, $649, $650. And we start looking at the comparables that are out there. You have the Nova N2 Dreadnought, their new version. It was an $800 gun. Now it is, I think, $499 or $599 and $600 or $649. I think they have two versions. It all depends on ammo. It's exactly the same gun. Just if you get a solid color, it's that. So it's a little bit cheaper, but it's right in that comparative price point. I'm not going to say it's a comparative gun. I have not shot the Dreadnought, the new one, so I don't know how that shoots. And then when you look at Dye, they don't really have anything. They have their upper tier that kind of drops all the way down to like that $1,100 range, and then they have something around the $400 range. which is more competitive with like the Emacs and stuff like that. Planet Eclipse, kind of the same thing. You have your Ether 3 M's that are around the $400 range, so this is a little bit more expensive than that. And as a price comparativeness, this is obviously a mechanical gun. And then MacDev has, I think they have one, I can't remember what it is. I have to look on that, but you guys can go look on that. MacDev has one. I think it's somewhere in the competitive price point. It's closer to it, and it's a mechanical gun. I think it's in that $700 range. So it's, you know, you have, I think your closest is Nova, MacDev, and the Push are all kind of picking that middle of the road price point and stuff like that. But with that $600 price point, there's some things that you don't get. You don't get a lever locking feed neck. You have a thumb wheel, and it's a really nice stainless steel. Looks like thumb wheel. It's all one part machined as one piece. It's not like a screw inside of a piece of stainless steel. This is all one solid piece. And so if you're really one of those people that say, look, I need a lever lock, I don't think you do. With this style right here, I think you can turn that, loose it to pull your hopper off just as fast as you do flipping that lever lock. So I think if you want the aesthetics of the lever lock, great. I think, I don't know, let's go look. Grab one of my tools here. Well, we have this here. I think I have the right one. Is that the right one? Yeah. Let's see if we can unscrew this. I don't know what type of, it feels like it's got the, Rory didn't do that, so let's look at it real quick. I think, I'm just looking down in this gap here. Let me see if I can zoom in. You see down that gap? That looks like an Empire spec. I think it probably is. I wonder if I have a, where's my screwdriver? Here it is. Let's see if we could just put a little twist on this and see if I could pop it off. Man. It's on there pretty good. I'm not going to try to get that off, so I don't have, but it looks like it's an Empire spec, which is good. So if you wanted to, you know, go and update this with a lever locking, I think probably any of the Empire spec stuff will work, but it's not tested. I'm going to pull the barrel off because we don't need it on it anymore. You have to kind of seen it with the barrel on there. Let's take that off to the side. Let's go the finish on it. The finish is a dust finish. There's some, like right here, there's a little blim. So, you know, it's just a little blim there. It's got a rough, it almost looks like obviously it's been bead blasted, but it looks almost like it's got pits in it, really microscopic pits. So finishes, it's so-so. I would, you know, and I don't know if it's 6061 or what aluminum they're using on this. I'm assuming it is, but it's made overseas, obviously. I don't know if it's made in China or Taiwan. I'm thinking Taiwan. This is gray, and even here it looks green to me. So it's not really a super gray, but it's not bad looking. It looks pretty good. So you can see there's just some little finish. You see this little pitty stuff there, pitty, and it just, I can't explain if it's an anodizing, if it's maybe the type of aluminum they're using, and when it goes into the acid wash, maybe it has a high nickel content or something like that, or copper content. I don't know. So the finish is okay on it. It's, you know, I would say it's your typical, you know, Chinesium kind of finish. I probably equate it to, and I don't want to beef on Free Flow, but Free Flow back in the day when they were having bodies made over in China, or I don't know if it was what company it was making the Lotus bodies, their Autococker bodies, and then they were knocking them off, and they kind of had the same type of finish, which is kind of a very mottled look. So it's okay, you know, it's smooth, it's going to clean up fine, and I think in that $600 price point, I think it's an okay finish. It'd be really interesting to see, and I may ship this off and have re-anodized and just have it polished off and stuff like that. All right, I'm back. I went to go grab some measuring implements and stuff like that so we can take some measurements of things. But before we move on, let's talk about the sponsor of today's video, and that is Killshot Customs Paintball, the bespoke shop out of White City, Oregon that really kind of focuses on primarily Autococker and some other guns. But today I want to talk about their product. Is they have their bespoke swivels, and these are the twister swivels. You can use them on any of the AKA Sidewinder regulators is what they're designed for. I know that he's probably going to make a batch for the Inception regulators, and these are both the angled fittings, and he does have straight ones too. I know that the first lot of these sold out, and he's making a lot more. And but if you get a chance, go to Killshot Customs, spelled with a K on both sides. Go to the website, check them out. Go back there frequently. He usually will post up on Facebook when these are being dropped again. The quality of these parts are insane. The machining, made in the USA, made with USA 6061 aluminum. He specs everything in-house. They're a full machine shop. Just super nice stuff. This one is actually an AKA one. This is on an Inception version 1/2 regulator. That's I machined the regulator down, but it fit fine on this. But he is making these for Inceptions, I'm pretty sure, and he has a whole bunch of other products for the Twister F6 line, I think it is. The new Twister Autocockers that are out. I think it's the F6 or F5, I don't know. But go take a look at Killshot Customs, and thanks Killshots for sponsoring today's video. All right, back to the video, and I want to do something before we move on. I want to first measure. I've got a tape measure, and the total length of the gun is just right at about 8 3/4 inches long, and then we kind of look at total height. I would say if we kind of bring that straight back, we're just about 7 3/4 total in height on the gun. So it's you know, at the shortest it's going to be 6.5 or 5 inches. The spread between the front grip and the back of the grip is about 7 inches. So if you're curious on that. The other thing is this a NXL or ICPL tournament legal trigger guard? And so I went and looked at the 2025 rules, and basically the trigger guards has to be factory unmodified, which that's what this is. And the height, the inside dimension height, cannot exceed 1.3 inches. So it's interesting when you look at this. I'm trying to get in the angle in the light. Maybe I should put a light colored cloth behind us. Let me grab this cloth. Grab this microfiber, and not the cleanest microfiber, but you guys will get the point. You see where this curves down here? It doesn't say where you make the measuring. I'm going to assume it's going to be at the highest point. So I get my calipers out, let's turn them on, and the tallest part is right about here, and we're there. I mean, you could probably argue a little bit, but they're there. But when you move back, it's much more narrow because it curves in here. And I think their concern is that the 2-finger thing is getting in there. With it curved back like that, it's kind of hard to get 2 fingers in here. If your fingers were up here, it'd be a little bit more easier to do it. But it's right at that, not a smidge over. I don't think they would beef over that. So it looks like it is tournament legal in that aspect on that. So with that, let's grab the barrel. Let's see if this will all where'd the barrel go? Here's the barrel. Screw the barrel on. And I'm sure A&S Gear did the weight on this. Let's see what it is. We're right at 1 pound, 15.3 ounces. 15.3. If it changes it anywhere, 15.3. So no. So 1 pound, 15.3 ounces on the weight. Whatever that compares to on your other markers, it's not a super feathery light feeling marker, but it's not heavy feeling. And one of the things, I have rather large hands, and you can kind of see where my hands reside. Here it has a lot of grip here. You get that. I know some people like to reach over. Everyone has their own. Also, I have fairly big hands. In comparison, we measure my hands from the inside of my thumb to my finger. I'm almost 6 inches long there, so I don't know if that's. But there's plenty of grip. Speaking of grip, let's talk about the grips on here. They are a rubberized. It's a 50-50 on the front. This is a harder, it kind of looks like that plastic that's used like on the EMAC bodies, that quality, I call it kind of firearm grade plastic, what it looks like. And then it has a, I don't know if you can take this off. It looks like, yes, it looks like you can, looks fairly thick, like you could remove that, but it's, I don't see what the need for to remove it. The back, the grips are all rubber, and they have a nice texture to them. I can zoom in here. Mine did have this kind of discoloration. It's almost looking like where it sat, like in a mold release or something like that. I don't know what it is. It's not on the opposite side, so I don't see it as much. But it has a nice texture to it, so it's they feel fairly, you know, like I have a good hold. Same with the front. The front's a little bit, this is a little bit more rubbery feeling, more like kind of like the Exalt type of rubber. On those little wraparounds that Exalt makes, it feels more like that type of material, a little softer, but it doesn't feel like on the die regs that they did for free flow for the Autocockers and the die reflex. The rubber they have on theirs, that seems even softer. It's almost too flimsy. Like if you use it for a long time, it kind of stretches out. This feels like it's gonna, doesn't feel like it's gonna get stretched out like that. So it is pretty nice there. Kind of go through the marker. It does have a couple screws on either side. It's a complete wraparound on the grips. There is a hole right here. This is your regulator adjustment screw, and I have to look at the manual, but I think I'll have to look at the direction. It's the reverse of what you would think it would be. They actually have reverse threads in here. At least I haven't checked on this, but let's just get the cat out of the bag. This gun is, in my opinion, is based loosely, and there'll probably be some people are going to argue against this, maybe even the manufacturer, loosely on the FEP Quest, on how the design is of the engine, not the mechanical trigger, but the engine. I think it's very similar to the FEP Quest. When you take it apart, you're going to say, well, it doesn't look the same, but how it functions, it's very much the same. We'll go through that. And then it's the ZR1. It was a Chris Cole project after FEP Quest. He was part of FEP Quest. He moved to the ZR1, Zodiac ZR1, and it's similar to that. And then after the ZR1, where there's the Machine Vapor, which was Michael Spurlock project, which we'll talk probably a little bit more about that. I think I know he has his hands in this from some of the patent stuff that I've seen on it. And then obviously there's the R1 or something like that, the GRR, whatever, which looks like this. It's It came out a few years ago and it's kind of disappeared. But it's where if Field 1 was still here, this is where I would have seen them evolve to. I think this is what they would have done closer to this. But the other thing is, I don't know which one came first, but there's a company called Arc 1 Airsoft, and they make a speed soft airsoft gun that essentially, if you look at it, has the same grip panels, same screws, the same on-off, and the engine, although it's the same engine but smaller components because it's shooting a 6mm BB instead of a 68 caliber gelatin ball. It has the same switch here. The trigger mechanism on the inside is, I think, identical. The regulator, I think, is identical. This bottom line, outside of maybe some machining differences, just outside looks, same buttons, the same 3 screws, which we'll talk about those in a minute. And so it's and the Arc 1 is a company out of San Diego that makes a speed soft airsoft gun, and it's using basically it's a paintball gun that's miniaturized. Okay, and so and I know Mike Spurlock's involved with that one also. The patent, there's a patent number on this trigger group. If we end up taking it apart down to that, we'll show you that. But if you don't, just look at the ANS video, you'll see the patent number on it. If you search that patent number, it comes up with 2 people that own that patent. One is an Asian, Chinese, or Taiwanese name, and then Michael Spurlock is the other one. So I know he's involved at least in this, and I think this upper tube design, because he was involved in Machine Vapor and the Zodiac ZR1 projects. He was involved with both of those. So I think it's just an evolution from those. That's my feeling on that. Is it good or bad? I don't know. I think time will test to see when this gets bought and shot, if there's any teams that will pick this up and play with it at the tournament level. Maybe not. It's hard to say. But with that, let's keep on going here. I don't want to go too long. Talk about the feed neck. We talk about this foregrip a little bit. Foregrip has 2 screws, this screw and a screw in here. I think they are all the 5/32, and you take those 2 off, and this comes right off. And then you have a screw back here and a screw here. All right, so we talked about taking the grip panel off, and one of the things that I notice is it's weird on the screws. And this is a captive screw. Not captive, not captive, not captive, not captive, if I can get in there. Captive, captive screws. I'm not a big fan of these. You end up just kind of messing up the anno on that. So I don't know. I get why they do it. They don't want your hands up there. It's a nice smooth transition, but it's not really polished here. If I can zoom in here, but it is a $600 gun, so you can actually see that I actually did take the screw out. You see a little shine there. So I don't know. I get why they do it, so you don't have a hole here and your hand rubs against it, but I don't know. But one of the things is, let me grab the Allen keys. There's a bad design, in my opinion, on this, and it's all in the on-off is probably the well, we'll talk about the on-off, but there's a bad design in this, and it's not that you're going to go in here and service. Well, maybe it may be a high wear item. We don't know. We'll find out. But to take this off, you have your 5/32. I think it's your 5. No, it's not 5/32. It's this one right here. Yeah. Yeah, these aren't 5/32. These are, what is this? 9/64. 9/64. But I can't get that in this hole. Well, it does. It's really tight. It doesn't really want to spin. But they have another Allen key in here. And it's the, and I think it's metric. Let's see if I can get it out here. I don't want to drop all of them out. It always, uh-oh. I lost one of them that ran around here somewhere. I'll find it here in a minute. It's dark, I can't see it. Put this back. It has this one Allen key. Let's see what it is. So here's a 5/32. That's 0.14, 0.35. So I think this is metric. If I go to metric, I bet you this is like, that's 4.3 or 3.56. No, it's not. It's weird. Man. So this one will fit down in here. Okay, it will, and it will spin. It's almost like it's just a tad bit smaller. It's almost like it's a custom Allen key. And the problem is that I can't bring it in this way because the depth of it, I will damage it. And these were on here pretty tight, so I had to actually use put a crescent on here to loosen it. I didn't tighten them back up super tight because I don't feel like it needs to be as tight as it was. But this is kind of the only key. So, you know, push. When you make these, just make this hole a tad bit bigger. And quite frankly, I don't know if I do the captive. I don't know if they need a third one up here. But I wouldn't. To me, I think it's kind of a waste. And it always makes me worried when there's a lot of keys and there's a lot of small ones in here. I think that's it. But it is in that $600 price point, so that $650 at mid-range price point. So, you know, I'm not going to beef it too much because they're marketing that, yeah, you know, you kind of pay for those creature comforts on like the die and the Planet snap-on grip panels. You know, to have that all done that way, there's some engineering and stuff like that that's done, and sometimes it's a little, you know, not as cost effective, so they have to put that into the price of the gun. But like I said, I'm not a fan of it. Now, if you did watch the ANS video, Rory on there actually brought up a very good point. It's how this on-off works. And I was concerned about it when I had the airsoft. I had the airsoft, the ARC one, in for service for a customer, a local airsoft store. They're not familiar with working on paintball guns, so I do all their kind of weird airsoft repairs for them. And they had got this in on trade, and I tried to, you know, get into this lower half, and I couldn't find an Allen key to fit. I thought it was some special tool, which I found it is kind of a special tool. So, but the other thing I found is that how this works is you have these push buttons here. You have one that's kind of a little bit more protruded. If I can stick it up like, there we go. You can see this side here, that's on, and that's a release off. So if I push on the pin, and right now if you look in the end, and real quick, I call these limited pin movement. They're not infinite. They're limited. They only will move. That pin will only move as far as the mechanism allows it. It doesn't. You don't have an infinite. It's a limited. And I'm not a big fan of when companies do limited pin engagements, because with all the different tank regs out there you have. You know, this is the ball style. You don't see a lot of these anymore, so probably not that big a deal. But people still have them. Here's the new Empire Flow. It's more the traditional, newer pin style, and it all depends on the height of that pin, how far it needs to be depressed to actually get good flow in it. And it really seems like when you're making a limited pin on off. And that's my jargon for it, is that you could potentially be starving the gun with certain regs. And what I've always liked is the knob on. And yes, it's not as aesthetically pleasing. I think the Bob Long G6Rs, the first gen of the G6Rs, had the knob on, and I really, really like that because it's an infinite, and it's a positive on-off. They just work. They're simple and they work. So how this works is I'm going to push my finger in there, and the pin is now in, and I'm acting as my finger is acting like the tank's in. And when I push on this long side, it's pushing that pin out. And as long as I keep pressure on that pin, that's locked in. Okay. Now, I don't have a ton of pressure with my finger, but it doesn't take much. Now, I do have to kind of go in a ways on this other one. I can kind of get it off. Let me zoom in one to this level. To this level. Let's see if I can do this with the other finger. There you go. That white background. Oh, I need that. It doesn't take much to depress it. So I know this is kind of not super scientific, but my concern, and Rory came up with the same concern, if you dive into a bunker with this and you hit this or you bump it when you're running to something, my concern is these are going to turn themselves off, and I think that is a big problem. In the paintball tournament type of scene, tournaments are generally outside. It's a what I see like in majority like airsoft type of speedball tournaments, they're more like an indoor field, concrete floors and stuff like that. I don't see them necessarily diving as much, so maybe this system works well. I still think it's cool. I guess it looks kind of cool, so it's got a good look to it, but I just don't see it as a durability or reliability of being able to stay on. And one of the things I did have an issue with, and I think that's in the safe mode. Let me find my muffler barrel while we're here, because I do have air in these tanks. The one issue with this type of a system, so this in here is the pin. You have a 90-degree button that's pushing against the pin that's got to go that way. So the pin's got a taper on. So if we look at the manual, if we can show that in the manual, it kind of shows the little taper in the back. Yeah, it's going to show a little bit. Let me try to zoom in here. All right. So there's the pin. There's the on-off pin, and it's tapered around it on the back, and then this little taper right here, when you push in from this side, this is the side that you push against, it's going to push that taper against this ball and push that out. Well, the angle of that taper, that's the friction point, okay? And it takes force to try to get that on. I'll put on my muffler real quick. And so, for instance, this tank is a super low pressure. I think the output on this is like 270, 300 psi. So if I screw this in, now it is the ball style, so the surface area of the ball. So I have essentially 300 psi pressing up against the back side of that ball and sealing it, okay? And then I have a spring there. And so it's a good snap. Doesn't take much to do it, but yeah, it's in the safe mode. It requires a little bit of force. Now, if I have a tank that's, let's say, closer to 800, let's say 550 and up, it's gonna take more force to push in on this button right here, on the on button, to turn it on. And you can feel it. It doesn't feel really smooth. It feels like it's got a good clunk there. I want to take this apart, and I kind of want to polish that a little bit. I don't think it's really going to matter. I kind of want to look at that. But I think if they were to come up with a next year model, this thing shoots great, and people love it, but they complain about this, is change this. I think this is really not a real good thing. You see that I have the safety on it. It's, if I turn the safety on this, shoots, safety's on, and this is like turning mode. So what I did find out is on the, now granted, not a lot of people have this style tank. It did work with this, worked okay. So seems like it pushed it far enough. I have this Empire Flow. This is right at 430 psi, and this one is interesting. If I screw this tank in all the way where it stops, and then, man, it's like I can't push that in. I mean, it's literally locked. So I back it out a little bit. I still can't. I have to. There it goes. It's I don't know. It just is really hard to push that in. Like, it doesn't want to work well. So I don't think it's a good design. Like, I can't, like it here, I can't get it in. I have to back the tank off a little bit. Then I can push it in, and it's there. It's kind of flush now. Now I can screw the tank in the rest of the way. So I think it's cool. I think the engineer that was tinkering with this thought it was a really cool idea. Now it's I can't release it. Now I don't know if that's supposed to be that way. Maybe it's supposed to. Maybe that's the lock. I mean, I can't unlock it now. But if I unscrew the tank a little bit, there's a point that, I don't know. There, I can unlock it. So push or Mike Spurlock, you know, let me know, because, you know, comment in this video or something like that. Is that designed to work this way? I don't think so. Like I can turn it on. See, that's not on, and yeah, really hard to turn on. Yeah, I just can't get it on. So let's unscrew this. Peter asked me, do I like these? Verdict's still out on the flow. I'm still testing it. I'm a big red guy, so so I think this is going to be the Achilles heel of this marker. I think, quite frankly, I think it's going to be one of the Achilles heel. But the nice thing, and let's go and take this apart real quick. We're going to take off that one part, and I did put the Allen key back like a dummy, which I shouldn't have. I thought I lost that other Allen key. Maybe I didn't lose it. I don't know. Let's put this Allen key. There it is. So, I know these are long videos. I'm sorry, guys, but we're going to take this screw out right here. This one comes right out. Pretty simple. Okay, then this guy has got two screws that are captive, so I'm going to screw that until it stops. Then I'm going to screw this until I can't go anywhere. Then I have to go back over to this one, and there we go. This does have a 1x3mm O-ring there. We'll talk about that O-ring if I remember. And you see, here's the captive O-rings. I'm gonna take the captive screw. You know, it's kind of cool, I guess. You know, there isn't. Well, let me back that up. It has a lot of engagement there. There's a lot of engagement on that. I'm just not really fond of this style. I think this on-off. I think if this gun takes off, I think there's a good aftermarket I think there's a really good aftermarket option if Push decides not to change this. I think there's an aftermarket option to have someone else make it. This is not a complicated part, and it's got a alignment tab and 3 screws. I think you could probably get away with just the 2 screws with it. I think it'd be more than enough. None of these holes are for adjusting the regulator, so this is just really a bolt-on piece. And I think outside of everything's kind of at an angle on the back here. Let's zoom back out. But I think in theory you could get away with someone manufacturing something different, or have an upgrade part, or have a spacer. Because I'll show you, this is the thing. I'm going to put 1 screw in and I'll explain it. Just 1 screw, there we go. With my hand here, and I have big hands, my palm rests against there. If I go and screw in, let's say this flow tank, this is at 80 cubic inch, what you would see at a tournament. Now, my hand is not impeded here because my wrist is impeded here. And I think it kind of makes an uncomfortable, I wish this was just dropped literally ½ inch. And I think coming up with a spacer at minimum would be great. That'd be a really nice feature. Or an on-off that's actually just a little bit taller and drops down, that isn't a push button. That's a knob style. It's an infinite knob style. So you have just ultimate reliability with 99.9% of the tanks out there. Simplicity, limited O-rings on that. I think this is, if I can get back here. I mean, it's when you're up here, your wrist is kind of dipped down. And I know this is not the best. You can't really see me that well. It's kind of dipped down, but I think, I don't know. I think they could have a couple different options. I think for a person that's playing really small, this is a nice setup for that. To me, and I don't play tournament guys, so I'm not an expert on that. So don't quote me on those things. I just think that having some options here, and I don't trust these buttons. Either I can't turn them off, I can't turn them on, or they pop off. They're hard to turn on and off, or they easily come off. So the other thing, so that's one of the big Debbie Downers. Oops, that I don't like about it. Almost lost that screw. Let me see if I could. Oh, there's that Allen key. I just found it. It did go south on me. I'll sit right here with this Allen key. And we really went far back there. So the other thing, and this is, I know this gun comes either out of Taiwan or China, where it's coming from. It's being manufactured. I'm hoping Taiwan, but no, I just lost that O-ring. There it is. Little tiny O-ring there. Get rid of these small metric O-rings. You don't need a 1x3 here. Put a number 5 there. Make the land a little bit deeper. Use where you can, use as many standard US O-rings that you can. It's easier for people to find these, and just get rid of it. Now, when I took the O-ring that was on here originally off, I think I still have it sitting here. Yes, I do. I have it right here. Let's see if I can this and zoom into this. Here it is right here. This guy right here, you can kind of see that it's disformed a little bit. I can bring it up in here. It's kind of hard to see. It's actually flattened. It's just 1x3, 70 durometer. That was here. Now it's a static O-ring. It's not a dynamic. It's static. So, so with that, when I took this off originally, this O-ring looked aged, old garbage. I replaced it with a new O-ring, 1x3 from a reputable source. What I've found is that depending on where stuff's being manufactured, the luck on O-rings from overseas, they're just garbage. I just nonstop, just garbage O-rings, and I don't know if it's from them coming across in the boat, and these products are just getting, you know, they got the cheap seats in the boat, so the sea container's off to the edge, and it gets all the heat, and it's not deep inside the belly of that ocean-going liner, so it's getting a lot of heat. But I just noticed that the O-rings go flat. For instance, the Resurrections is Empire Resurrection was a really good one. Every O-ring, even in the spare kit that they sent you, they didn't last. They just were garbage. And so everyone just got the Resurrection, and they replaced all the O-rings. So even at this level, at a $600 price, you shouldn't have to do it. Now, it does come with spare O-rings, but if you're putting these, if they are poor, and I don't know if they are yet, we're going to see. That one was, my guess was the rest are going to be kind of poor. I would highly recommend putting together a O-ring kit that you get from like the O-ring store or Captain O-ring or whatever, whoever you want to get O-rings from. Get in a kit if you're going to be using one of these, so you have spares. Don't rely on the stuff that's in the box. I just don't trust it, especially when they're dynamic. If they're static, yeah, you can get a lot more life out of them, but any dynamic, then I don't recommend it. And there aren't many dynamic O-rings. There's one in here, very short dynamic O-ring. The bolt has dynamics. The three-way, there's mechanism here that has a lot of dynamic O-rings. And if we look at the chart here, let me see here, right about the chart. Let's see if we can find it. It's right here. We're going to zoom in. So we look at this. Let's look at the sizes. We have a 1mm by 1.5mm. You have two of those. You have 1x3s. You have more 1x3s, trying to focus, then 1x3s 90s, then 1x6s. Then you have a number 4 down here. Okay. Then you have 1x3 90s up here, 1x6, 1x4.5s. And then you have this oddball, a 2x1.5. Good luck finding this. I did find them. So really odd sizes. I wish they would get into a more standardized sizing. Let's go through the spool. So I mean, when we look at this guy right here, so dynamic is probably anything this little shaft runs on. So the 1.45s, the 2.15 would be my the 2.15s are probably what that's riding in. And this is I think these are like a piloted poppet, piloted three-way type of setup. I don't know if these move at all, if they're just chamber. This looks like this may move back and forth. It's like a piloted part. These are static, these are static. And then we go to the regulator. The regulator has a 3, no, that's number 13, so let me see. 10, 10, 13, 1x3 here, 9s, oh, 2x8, why? Odd, and this would be an O-ring that I would probably be changing a lot more. On the Airsoft gun, I did change the regulator seat, and the regulator on this is a moving base style regulator, but the reg seat is in the piston, not on the adjuster. So the adjuster, it's very similar to like how a Nova regulator works. The Nova in all their guns runs almost identical type of regulator as this. And so I had to replace this reg seat. I laser cut ones. I can do that. I don't know, that the one that was in the airsoft one seemed like it was tacky. It could have been user error, the wrong lubrication on it. It just didn't seem quality. But you guys saw on the chrono, it shot pretty consistent, so I haven't taken this apart. I'm not gonna, I don't want to pass judgment on it, but these are things that you could probably, this is going to be a quote-unquote proprietary part. You can definitely cut this out of sheet urethane. But get rid of these metric push. Just get rid of all the metric stuff you can. Just try to ditch it. I know that, yes, this is like a part that you use in your airsoft world, or the other manufacturer. This is the got the patent on it. I would ditch as much of the metrics as you can on that. So let's take a look real quick. The bolt mechanism, this is on a little spring, and it catches in two spots. So up on the top, let's zoom in here, it's got a little notch there, and then on the underside of this, I don't know if you can see it if I get into the light there, little lighted background, there's a little notch right in there, and then right here, this little catch right here, let me bring it, it notches so it locks here and it locks up here, which is kind of nice. And let's pull this out, zoom back out, and here's the eye pipe or the ball detent. This just snaps on and off. It's got three little clips here, and I said this is probably something that you could 3D print. It snaps in here. I don't think you would necessarily need it to snap in there. You could probably just put a little ring there. I don't know, because it has an alignment pin on the front, and if you look down in there, there's a little alignment pin. Get it there? You see that little alignment pin? That's what this notch is into, right there. The little notch on the bottom, right there. So it is going to line this in there. And if you look at the A&S video, they say you just want to, kind of pre-align it at the top of this cap. You can do that. It does have double ball detents, and they're just little flex ball detents. I don't know how long that's going to survive. Kind of curious on that, but pull out to the side. Here is the mechanism, and if you ever had a FEP Quest, there's really only one moving part in the FEP Quest, which is the bolt. And this is there's two cans here. This is the center can, front can, center can, and rear can. This right here is the bolt. And all this does is when it's all the way back, high pressure air, regulated air comes through this. Let me just put this back on like this. Actually, go like this. On the right. Kind of the air passage on this is when this bolt is all the way back. Let me zoom in here. You're going to see those little holes down in there on the gold piece, that spool, those little holes right there. That's high pressure. So high pressure air is coming in from this side. It enters that gold, this little hole right here. Regulated high pressure air goes in there. It fills this chamber right here. Right here, fills this with a certain volume of air at a certain pressure. Okay, and then this bolt is held back with an air bias. It's an air piston, and it's essentially there's air in the front of it that's holding it back, and when you pull the trigger, it releases the air in the front, so the air in the back now starts pushing on this piston. And if we pull this off the back here, as this moves forward, I'm going to take everything apart here, it's easier to show. As this moves forward, the air comes through the gold, these holes, then through these holes, fills that chamber, and as this moves forward, these holes eventually get blocked off by this back O-ring, by that O-ring right there. And eventually, it's going to expose that O-ring. So in this stage right here, there is, the air chamber is full. It's not receiving any more air from the regulator. It's at a fixed pressure and volume. And then as soon as it passes this front O-ring, as it gets past that, then all that air dumps from this fixed chamber, dumps through these holes, and then comes out and propels the ball. And this is, and by the time it gets there, this is now in place. Okay, and that's essentially how that all works. Just, you know, real quick. And that's the same way the FEP Quest worked. It had a fixed dump chamber, and just worked like that. Now, you guys saw on that, how efficient is this? I don't know. We'll see. I'm sure, like what Punisher Paintball, I think they do a whole bunch of efficiency tests. I really enjoy their videos on efficiency tests. I'm glad they do it. I don't want to do it. It's just, it's cost prohibitive for me to do it, because they own I own a store, but they sell paint, and they're a larger type of a store. I don't sell paint, and I don't buy paint in cases. So if someone wants to send me a whole bunch of cases of paint to do an efficiency test on, great. I have all the compressors. I can fill everything to 4,500 psi. I can do all that shiny, happy stuff. The cost of doing it, it's not prohibitive. It's just cost prohibitive for me to do that. But let's zoom back out here. So pretty simple. There's a couple dynamic O-rings we saw on the gold shaft on the inside. There's two there, and then you have there's an inner O-ring on this center can that this bolt moves on, and then there's some inner O-rings up here, and then there's dynamic O-ring here. Then there's a couple bumper O-rings that's where it stops forward and stops back. There's a couple bumper O-rings on that. And outside of that, all the rest are pretty much fixed O-rings. They're just sealing O-rings. So pretty simple on that design. And then it has this front O-ring right here. And it's just a sealing O-ring. I think it's more of an alignment O-ring. Let's line everything back up. Slides in nice. Clamps nice. It's kind of got an interesting little whale tail look to it. But all in all, let's see what else. Oh, we talked about the red switch. This is if it's in the rear position back, it's in a safety / training mode, I guess. And if it's moved forward, it's in a non-bypass mode. It's in a fire mode. So this puts it into a bypass. It basically bypasses the air when you push the trigger that is going to dump the air out of there. It just bypasses that little that air to where it just gases it out, and that allows you to kind of just train on the trigger, and you can kind of get that trigger feel on that. Speaking of the trigger, there are a couple adjustments. There is an Allen key here, and this, what I noticed, was pretty much set and Loctited from the factory. It was pretty much where it should be. You have a kind of there's a magnet up in the bottom here, and you have a screw that kind of gets closer to the magnet and you get a little bit more force on it. So it's really two kind of adjustments. Really, I think if anyone does anything, they'll probably do this upper one. And that's what I did. I dropped it a little bit, or I pushed it up a little bit. I wanted it to be right on the firing, a little bit closer, just to kind of see what it felt like, what difference. But so it has that. There really isn't any need to take the grip panels off unless you're servicing the reg. And let's see if they talk here in the manual on adjusting the reg. They do. Okay, we're going to zoom in here. So right here, to increase velocity, counterclockwise. So you're going to unscrew. Counterclockwise increases the velocity, and to decrease velocity is clockwise. So, let's see, is that right? Yeah, so I think this is different than the airsoft version, I think. I don't remember. Oh, here it is right here. I was looking for this. Kind of an odd spot. I'm glad. Can damage the trigger valve. So overpressurizing Propel can damage the trigger valve. So a max of a 550. So that's like a powerhouse reg. And then, you know, if Ninja's still around, I don't know if they are. I think their newest regs were right at 550. So a max of 550. I think you could probably get away with something in the sub 400. I would say probably 3 to 4 would probably be more than sufficient, and it makes turning this on off a little easier. So I looked all over for this, and it's at the bottom. I wish they would say right at the top here in big, you know, it's at the bottom, and it's like the last thing I'm looking at after I've already screwed a tank into it and I'm adjusting the pressure. But yeah, kind of weird. I'm reading anything on the on-off stuff. Push the turn. Okay, nothing there. It's all tank to ASA screwing in clockwise until pressurized. So they don't really say anything in there. So yeah, 550 is the max. And I would imagine this. I want to think that these things are probably running the output of these regs, and I'm going to build a little device to put in the back and see what this is set at 300 feet per second on good paint to barrel match. I'll bolt the engine, degas, bolt the engine, put in a reg tester in the back, and we'll figure out what pressure that is. Not that it really matters, but you can kind of get an idea, because then you can kind of say, well, what tank can I use that is going to reliably be consistent with this system, and what tank output pressure on that. So I'll work on that. But I kind of like this. I like the gun. I think it looks good. It feels good. I'm not a fan of this really swoopy trigger. I wish the trigger was a little bit more proud, and I think this is going to be a great, if this takes off, it will be a great marketplace for other manufacturers to make pretty cool triggers. It's a simple trigger. It's no different than a trigger you would see on like a electronic gun. It's just pushing a switch. So it's a pneumatic switch. So that's all. But anyway, that's my overview and kind of general initial impression review on it. I thought it shot good. I thought it was loud, dry firing, but it wasn't as loud shooting paint. It does have a little bit of a kick to it. I kind of like that visceral. I'm a cocker shooter guy. But I'm always kind of looking at some of these mechs. And I like the fact that, see, there's stuff that's kind of hitting that middle of the road market. So it's that, don't get me wrong, the EMEC and the ETA 3M, great markers. You can't go wrong with them. But I like, it's kind of like when that was the only option, there's more options. And I like seeing more options because it creates more innovation. So I'm glad that they're coming out with it. Things I hate, like I'm just like this on off. I think they could redesign that 100%. It's really make it a little bit taller, or an optional plate that you could lower it by about a ½ inch would be great. So it gives that person that adjustability. And then I'm not a big fan of this swoopy trigger. Wouldn't mind having a little bump there where I could kind of bump it up and down. It'd be really interesting to put a little roller bearing in the center here and make a trigger. Maybe I'll 3D print one with a little roller bearing where you can run your finger up and down and just roller bearing over the top of that bearing, and it pushes it. So there I have it. Take the idea, run with it, whoever wants to. Just send me some free ones. Alright, that's all I have. I'm sorry for the long video. It is what it is, guys. Thanks everyone for showing up, and if you haven't done so, subscribe to the channel, please. It does help. I don't make any money on this. And then hit that bell button. Normally I do Autococker stuff, but it's time for a little change. Docfire out.